Hello, Watem here. Welcome back to some more Umineko When Seagulls Cry. I feel like my brain turned off at some point last time. What was going on? It doesn't make sense. Uh, in any case, and if it's blocked and this right straight hits, then it's a double cross counter with 8 times the destructive power. Because I think last time we ended off on uh, this one. This is also common knowledge in the boxing world, apparently. Sure. And if that is crossed, then by the principle of leverage, the triple cross would multiply the destructive power by 12. This is also painfully common knowledge in the boxing world. Ah. Yeah, that's also something that doesn't make much sense. Uh, why is it like times one more for each loser flag that you trip? Does that mean that you get to trip one loser flag for free because the first one's just times one, which does nothing? Its power level is over 9,000. I couldn't help myself. It is 11,520. Kraus's punch now had the power to easily win the first Tenkaichi Budokai. Nanjo clapped the gate on his shoulder. In the middle of a fight, apparently. Yeah, Oni-chan gave it his all. As the sparkling drops from the goat's eyes scattered, he bent backwards and fell on Virgilia. The goat's massive body was too heavy for the slender Virgilia. She wriggled around with it on top of her, but it didn't look like she'd be able to escape. In that instant, the barrier Vigilia had sealed broke. I see. Uh huh. Leverage. Very powerful. What? After that, there was nothing to block their way. They ran intently through the underground passage. Yeah. Jessica had finally been cornered, with the wall at her back. Ronove advanced with his magic circle, bit by bit, and would probably crush her against the other wall eventually. Considering the distance, she threw out her fists. This would be her final strike. Jessica had dealt out many punches so far. The wall wasn't invincible. It had already started to crack, and wouldn't be strange for it to smash at any moment. However, due to the rebounding damage, Jessica also had cuts all over her body, all worn out. You don't? Damage reflected by Renove's magic circle will proportional to the strength of the attack. Jessica's all-out punch would be bounced back onto her. The more all-out she went, the more suicidal it would be for Jessica. That was a fact. Renove's will was already on the verge of breaking. And on top of that, Jessica's fists had been imbued with an unimaginable magical attack power by now. Their destructive strength defied the imagination. In the worst case, that destructive power might even pierce the defensive wall, smash Renove as well. Create an expansion connecting this room to the next. However, that damage would rebound on Jessica as well. She wouldn't escape unharmed. Jessica howled, putting all the strength of her greatest and final destructive power into her fist. She roared. Gonna get more. George, the three gates had been beaten down long ago. Without straining to breathe in the slightest, George cautiously closed the distance between him and Garp. He was after her, planning on bringing her down with a single strike. Garp was also aiming for a single strike. If she let that chance slide, she would be killed this time. Even the tiny opening during the time it took to open the hole would prove fatal with George as an opponent right now. Garp cautiously calculated the distance and timing, but even as she did, George closed the gap between them. Kick versus kick. For an instant, she thought George's body blurred, and then only his jacket was floating. The moment she thought, darkness covered Garp. George, with his heel swung up high, was attacking from the sky like a massive dragon. But is it? Is it really? Garp opened a vast pitfall with her in the centre, swallowing up George along with herself. The two were swallowed up by the pitfall, spat out from the ceiling of the arbour. That was what Garp had been after, so she alone landed lightly. However, there was another pitfall in George's landing spot. Don't count your eggs before they hatch. George once again fell from the ceiling of the arbour. He had probably been dropped the same distance as falling off the roof of a two-story building. Sky, he couldn't control his posture in any way. It was impossible to resist or defend or avoid. Scarp spun like a whirlwind. She concentrated all of her energy on the sharp tip of his stiletto heel. This was the final strike to perform his requiem. The final strike of the queen bee that would bore into heaven, knocking him down into the true abyss. She closed in on her prey and stuck her foot up into the sky. At that time, she saw George's face. Even though, even though he was in midair, he was calmly adjusting his glasses with the middle finger of his right hand. Uh-huh. And his posture was still preserved as that of an axe kick. Without the faintest deviation, he aimed for Gap's forehead. uh, oh, Jessica's last and strongest upwards punch reached the wall and was sucked into a black, large hole that had suddenly opened on the wall. George? Do you collide? Yep. Jessica's fist had gone for George's stomach, and George's axe kick had lined up on Jessica's head. Shocking destructive power imbued in Jessica's fist crushed George's organs and scattered his abdomen. The same destructive power in George's axe kick smashed half of Jessica's head and scattered its contents in the same manner. So, I wonder how that actually played out. That is a very nice puzzle for a Bachelor to stumble upon. Two cousins having killed each other. I had somewhat been wondering why we weren't getting a battle perspective and Maria perspective. Beto and Gap casually high-fived each other. Oh, but Jessica's corpse will go back to her room. Oh. Oh, interesting. Garp dropped Jessica's corpse through the pitfall. All the chunks were thrown into Jessica's room, carelessly as throwing something into the trash. Jessica's corpse and lumps of flesh fell from the ceiling and poured out all over her room. Nave shook his head slightly at this gruesome change of scenery. So, it seems that Kraus broke out too late. No, just a visual novel. The arbor brutally decorated by George and Jessica's scattered blood and guts. Garp enjoyed a loud laugh for a while. I wonder if they at least end up coming and find, and like do DNA testing with blood, would they find Jessica's blood here as well? Um, did I read that last part? Garp enjoyed a loud laugh for a while. But she quickly realised that, in all seriousness, this was a little too filthy and undignified. She snapped her fingers. As she did, a cloud of gold butterflies rose up around her, stuck to each of the bits and bloodstains, and dropped them. Then George's corpse returned bit by bit. The brutal corpse with its guts torn out appeared into a clean corpse that looked like it was sleeping. Was this some act of sportsmanship towards a dead rival? No. The heavens were split. The Scup lifted her head high, pointing at the sky. He just, he just wants to smash his head in. Flat. Without a trace of mercy, that foot stepped down and was buried into George's forehead. The stiletto heel that was sharp as a weapon pierced George's forehead. With a bloop, it was pulled out. It was like a mark proving that Garp certainly had finished him by her own hand. So all the bodies will be having half of their heads removed this episode. Oh? But Jessica's one was also already missing half its head. Well, had head smashed in by George's kick. Interesting. Novi also returned Jessica's corpse to its original form. Unlike how it had been with George, he restored Jessica's life. Aye. Jessica's mind was burning. For some reason, she remembered being thrown somewhere and having George's heel smash her head. With the power that burned through Jessica's body until a second ago had been completely lost. Jessica was aware of that herself. She was already dead. Nova turned his form into a cloud of gold butterflies and disappeared. All that remained was the sound of the wind and rain, and the figure of Jessica as she crouched down, leaning against the wall. Jessica could tell. Probably really would revert to the corpse she had been after 3 minutes. Anything she could do in those 3 minutes? She stood up, with shaky gait, took the phone that was on the desk. Ringing the guest house? Yeah, well, where else could she ring? Atlas is still there. A line of blood dripped down from Jessica's forehead. I expect the contents of Battler's test will be a bit different as well. This really sounds like something the witch would want Basses to hear. A line of blood dripped down from Jessica's mouth as well. The left half of her head started hurting. Ooh, it's close. Jessica realized that she was about to return to the corpse she had been. Battler already didn't understand what Jessica was saying. From her tone, he realized that she knew she was about to die. So even though he didn't understand the situation, he urged her to give it her all. No, no message to pass along to Cannon. Too late. Battler's sorrowful voice could be heard from the dangling receiver. She leaned against the wall in that corner, crouched down. Jessica's head had been half smashed. Kyrie stuck her face out of the well, and then Kraus showed himself too. When he realized that they could see the back of the mansion from beyond a grove of trees, Kraus knew more or less where they were. I think that here, in a certain well, there had been a hidden underground passage, which led to a hidden mansion. Cannon climbed up a ladder out of a shaft that was disguised as a well. It was probably quite deep. When he looked down for the first time, he realized how far he'd come up. Oh, now it's going to be much easier for him to be targeted by the snipers, and the two of them are back up and operational, it seems. So I will be ending it there. We'll be continuing that next time. Until then, I hope you've all enjoyed. Let me know any feedback you have in the comments. And I've been meaning to do this for a while. Want to see if YouTube recognizes or can be able to understand my voice. Hit that like button. See if it turns lows around it. That's the main thing I want to see. I think there was something about the subscribe button as well. Don't remember. In any case, until next time. See ya.